Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. My name is Jack and this is your latest Manchester United news, and we've got a very busy show today. Plenty to talk about. Diego Leon is officially a Manchester United player. Obviously the deal was done months ago, but it is official as of the 1st of July. So we'll talk a little bit about that and what he has to say about potentially going out on loan. We've also got an update, guys, on Victor Gyokeres, as you can see by the title of the video. Is he moving ever closer to Arsenal and not Manchester United? We'll talk a little bit about that. We've got updates on Jadon Sancho's move away, potentially to Juventus, and a potential swap deal. We've got updates, or do we, on Mbeumo. We'll talk about him as always. We've also got updates, guys, on JJ Gabriel, which is absolutely fantastic news. United have secured the young kid services. He is staying at Manchester United. We'll talk a little bit about him in a moment or two as well. And we've got updates as well, guys, on Marcus Rashford. Bayern Munich have entered the fray for Marcus Rashford, but how high on the priority list is he for them? So we'll talk a little bit about that. As always, guys, smash a like on the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and do, as always, get your comments into the live chat or into the comment section below. I want to hear from you guys. I really do. Get your comments in. We've got Dylan is in the chat early there. Say hello if you're in, guys. I want to hear from you. It's been a very busy day for Manchester United on the rumour mill front, I suppose. But we're going to start with a bit of concrete news, guys, and some very good news. And we knew this was coming for a long time, didn't we? But it is in relation to Diego Leon. And he will be, well, he is a Manchester United player as of today. And he is travelling to Manchester as we speak. I don't know why my camera is so low. 1 second. So high. Little bit better. Sorry. But yeah, Diego Leon to Manchester United is a done deal. And look, really happy. Left-sided player, young player, left wing-back, left full-back, whatever the case may be, and built like a man. As you can see in these pictures here, he is a big chap and he is well able to put himself about. And a very good signing, and a signing that Manchester United have kind of... The early reigns of Ineos have kind of prided themselves on a little bit. Youth, future transfers. Now, look, we know, don't we, that United are going to have to, and they are currently trying to secure signings for the here and now. But getting somebody like Diego Leon in under the radar, and you know, when he was obviously being looked at by an awful lot of other clubs, it's a really good move for Manchester United. There's been a lot of talk, guys, about what's he going to... Is he going to come straight into the team? Is he going to be, you know, challenging Dorgu straight away? Is he going to maybe push Harry Amas out? Whatever the case may be. And a lot of people have been saying that he could potentially go out on loan, and that has been something that has been put to him. He done an interview, I think in the airport when he was leaving, and he says, everybody thinks that I will go out on loan, but I don't have that mentality. I'm going to kill it in the pre-season, and in 1 or 2 games I'll be playing with them meaning the first team. This is the type of mentality that Manchester United players should have, every single one of them. You need to be coming in. He's 18 years of age. Is he even 18? I think he is 18. I don't think you can sign until you're 18, so I presume he is. He's coming in with that type of mentality that I'm coming in and I'm going to fight for my place, and I want that left back position. I want to be in Ruben Amorim's team. I want to be playing for Manchester United. And if only every player had that mentality, we would be in a much healthier position. And to see it coming from an 18-year-old is absolutely refreshing. It really is. And I think it can only be infectious. I think if you can get the majority of your squad with a similar mentality, then you really do start to build some foundations of, you know, real standards. And I think that's what Ruben Amorim is trying to do. I think Ruben Amorim is, you know, quite cutthroat when it comes to how you live your life, how you know, ply your trade, how you look after your body, rest, recovery, all of these kind of things. And when you're getting somebody coming in with that type of mentality, and look, don't get me wrong, we have got players like that within the squad. Obviously, if you're talking about somebody similar to Diego Leon, the South American contingent, You're talking about Lisandro Martinez, fantastic mentality. You know, Bruno Fernandes has a great mentality, it's got to be said. I think Diogo Dalot has a great mentality. I think Andre Onana, even though he's come in for an awful lot of criticism, has got strong mentality. You know, De Ligt, Mazraoui, Ugarte, these types of players. I think if you can start to put these types of characters into a dressing room and really, really solidifying them over maybe a 2 or 3 year period, then I think it can only be beneficial towards your squad. It really, really can. And like I said, with Diego Leon coming in as an 18-year-old and being as bold to say, you know, I'm going to kill it in pre-season and in 1 or 2 games I'll be playing with the first team. It's absolutely fantastic to hear. It really, really is, and I'm all for it. I really, really am. What are we saying in the chat here? Ben is in. Good to see you. Dylan is there. He says, question for you. Do you think Ineos signing Amram was a mistake? Because they're not backing him. They probably thought he would be able to fix the team right away. No, I don't think it was a mistake. I think they are backing him. You know, they've got Cunha done, and Mbeumo, who we'll get on to in a few minutes, could potentially be done by the end of the week. We've got to go and get a striker, of course. Diego Leon has come as well. We've got some outgoings to do on top of that. But I do think the backing is there, and we've got to pull the trigger on some of these deals, and it is going to take a little bit of time, and it continues to take a little bit of time, and that is frustrating. But I do certainly think that Ruben Amram does have the full backing of Ineos. They've got to back it up now with some transfers in the door. And again, as soon as we can get that done, then, you know, the easier pre-season will be. I think that's quite clear. Now, it's a nice segue to go in. Ben says, someone with a bit of bite in him, always welcome in the door. Absolutely. Absolutely 100%. Getting the mentality of an 18-year-old that's saying them kind of things. You know, I mean, when have you ever seen an 18-year-old coming in and said, I'm going to kill it in pre-season and I'll be in the first team in 2 games? It's fantastic to hear. Now, that might not happen. It may not be the case. You know, he may well go out on loan, and ultimately it might not be his decision. You know, we will obviously assess him over pre-season. Ruben Amram will, and he'll say, no, look, I think it'll be more beneficial if you do go out on loan for a season and come back to us next year, whatever the case may be. Ultimately, it might not be his choice, but to be coming in with that type of mentality is absolutely fantastic to see, you know, especially from a young player. And when you're adding players like, you know, Kobbie Mainoo, Diego Leon, Ahmad, you know, I was going to say Garnacho, but he is going in the opposite direction, thankfully. You know, the likes of Lenny Yoro, we're talking about Sekou Kone, players like this. While I know we're all itching to, you know, to have a squad that can challenge as quickly as possible, I think making these types of signings for the future, you know, are absolutely vital and will be very beneficial to us in the long run. They really, really will. Do you think Leon could be better than Dorgu and push Dorgu to the bench? Well, the one thing I would always say is, you know, I'm not going to lie. I've seen very little of Diego Leon. I've seen what everybody else has, and that's, you know, the YouTube clips and the highlights of him. But competition is the lifeblood of any squad. It really, really is. And if you've got somebody like Diego Leon coming in and he's hungry enough and talented enough and has got enough desire to go and take Dorgu's position, then brilliant. It's up to Dorgu to then go and get it back. Competition is key for every squad to be successful and, you know, to keep the lifeblood of it, you know, at the very, very top. You look at, you know, the days of Manchester United having 4 strikers up front, York, Cole, Sheringham, Solskjaer, you know, all vying for 2 positions. That's the way it should be. And that should be the case in every single position on the pitch. We've now talking about left back now where we've got 4 left backs. We've got Luke Shaw, we've got Diego Leon, we've got Patrick Dorgu, and we've got Harry Ama. Something has to give. So I know who I would be moving on first, and that's Luke Shaw, and I would be trying to get as much money for him as humanly possible. But competition. We've got competition in the back line now, I think. You know, with the likes of Heaven coming to the forefront, with obviously Lenny Yoro having a really good breakthrough season, first season at United. We've got, you know, Harry Maguire, who's, you know, I still reiterate shouldn't be Man United's first choice. we've got Mazraoui can play there. Martinez is coming back from injury. De Ligt is there as well. All of a sudden, there's a lot of competition for the back line. The right wing back position, maybe not as much. If Ahmad moves to the right wing back position, then, Delors is going to have a lot of competition there. You're talking about maybe in midfield, maybe a lack of, if you're talking about specifically the number 6 role, it's Ugarte, Casemiro, and now maybe potentially Bruno Fernandes. When you're bringing in 2 number 10s, you would expect maybe Bruno to be dropping back into the 6. So maybe a little bit more competition there. Is Casemiro going to leave? The 10s, then there is going to be an awful lot of competition. Now that we've got Cunha, looks like Mbeumo is going to get done. Kobbie Mainoo, Mason Mount, Ahmad, all of these players, Joshua Zirkzee, can all play in the number 10 and all probably want to play in the number 10 role. So, there's competition there. The strikers. The number 9, we need to get some competition for that spot. First and foremost, we need to sign a striker, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a few moments. But competition is key. Competition is key. D is in. He says, evening all. Leon really seems to have the fire that we need. The meatball can fire his finger up the back passage if he's gone to... Upton Farson. I presume that's in relation to Gyokeres, who we will talk about right now, and it's a nice little segue. Victor Gyokeres to Manchester United has been a talking point throughout the last few months, and it's back and forth, and we've had an update today from L'Equipe coming out of France, I would presume, and they have said that Arsenal are now advancing on a verbal agreement with Victor Gyokeres. The deal is advancing. Now, no more than that. It's quite a to the point and short update. But if it's true, it probably is a blow for Manchester United. It's a blow for me specifically because I would love Victor Gyokeres to be the player that we go out and get. And I think... depending on how much he ultimately leaves for in the end, we do know obviously that the release clause has been triggered today. Well, not triggered, but it has come into effect today. And basically what it is for Gyokeres is that it's €100 million technically is his release fee. But he has obviously that gentleman's agreement where if a 60 million bid comes in, it's got to be accepted. And I think 10 in add-ons. And if it's not, his agent gets a 10% of the transfer fee that he ultimately goes for, I think, or for each bid that comes in. So Victor Gyokeres' release clause technically is in effect as of today, and obviously nobody has triggered it yet. But when you're hearing reports coming out now, all of a sudden linking him with Arsenal, then I mean, the one thing I would say is, why haven't Arsenal done a deal for Gyokeres yet? Sorry, let me start that again. Why haven't Arsenal done a deal for Benjamin Sesko yet? Benjamin Sesko has widely reportedly been their number 1 choice, and Mikel Arteta is a big fan of him. Why haven't they pulled the trigger on him yet? There's no release clause, there's no, time frame when something becomes available or the price drops. They could initially go out and get Sesko at any stage. I don't think there's been even talks with Red Bull about him. I don't think there definitely hasn't been a bid put in. Is it because they're maybe waiting for this release clause for Gyokeres to kick in on the 1st of July? I think it's a strong possibility, and I think we probably will see movement on the striker front increase in the next few days. I genuinely do think that, because if Gyokeres' £100 million release clause, but it's actually a 60 million release clause, gentleman's agreement, is in effect as of today, then maybe that's what Arsenal have been waiting for, to pull the trigger on him. And maybe there is a deal in the background, or maybe that is the case. I don't think there is a deal in the background though, because we've heard Sporting's president come out and say that he's not going to let him leave for that price, and it remains to be seen whether that happens. It's worrying if you do want Gyokeres to play for Manchester United, which I do. I want Gyokeres to play for United. I think he would be perfect. I can just imagine him doing that in the Stretford end, you know what I mean, after scoring goals. It just works for me. But regardless of who Arsenal go for in the end, whether it would be Gyokeres, whether it's Sesko, I think as soon as they make their move, I think you will probably see the dominoes fall. You know, we know that if they go for Sesko, we're going to go for Gyokeres. Now, if they go and get Gyokeres, does that mean we're going to go for Sesko? I don't think so. Sesko is a lot more expensive than Gyokeres is. And I don't think Manchester United potentially have that type of money unless we can generate, sales, money from sales. And we know that takes time, and we don't really have time. We need players in, and and I think that's probably why the Gyokeres thing is so key. I think if you can get him for 60 plus 10, it's a fantastic deal. And that's euros as well, by the way. 60 plus 10 euros from Sporting for Gyokeres would be fantastic for United. We could get him in early. You wouldn't have to overly rely on sales to get a deal like that done. But if you're going for a Benjamin Sesko who's going to cost you 80 million pounds, maybe 90 million euros, you've got to have sales done before you could even attempt to go in there and put in a bid. Because if they accept it and the deal is done and United transfer that money over, and all of a sudden we're scrambling to sell players before the end of the transfer window to balance the books, it's not a good thing. So I think that's why the Gyokeres deal, not just because I like him and I think he would be the best option for us, but financially, it's so much more beneficial for United and Arsenal. You know what I mean? So maybe that's why they haven't made any initial steps for Gyokeres yet. And maybe that release clause coming into effect today is what's going to spring the striker transfer market into effect. Let's see what people are saying here. Ben says Ollie Watkins. We're going to get on to Ollie Watkins in a moment. So we are, because obviously we spoke about it this morning, but some big news in relation to to United being linked with him as well, and we'll talk about him in a moment and get your guys' opinions on him. Let's get down to some of the comments here first. Give me 1 second here. Where are we? Sorry, no. Just give me 1 second here. Let's see. We're going to land up with Højlund and Xerxes up front next season again. We can't, We literally can't. I mean, it's just inconceivable for us to end up with Højlund up front on his own again next season. We can't do it. I mean, I genuinely believe if that was the case at the end of the transfer window, that Ruben Amorim would hand in his resignation. I genuinely believe he would do that. I would. I mean, it would be such bad negotiating and, after all of the so-called planning and having a Champions League plan and a non-Champions League plan, yeah, it would be a nightmare. It really, really would. What's your thoughts on Ekitike? I've spoke about him an awful lot. I don't think he's worth the money that he's maybe been touted for, but we need somebody. I would prefer him to Rasmus Højlund. Get Højlund to Napoli and get some cash off Osimhen. Well, see, the fee for Osimhen I don't think is the issue, D. And it's been widely reported that the issue with Osimhen is his fucking salary. He won't lower his wage demands. He just won't lower his wage demands. And I think that's the issue. I think if he was willing to come down to 250,000 a week even, I think United would pull the trigger on him. I genuinely do. And we heard the report suggesting that he's the type of striker that Ruben Amorim likes. He's big, he's strong, he can play with his back to goal. His link-up play is good. He can actually get in behind. He can score goals from angles, gets across the front post, all of these types of things. I genuinely believe that if Victor Osimhen lowered his wage demands, United would go for him. And maybe that may still happen. I don't know. But as of now, I don't think so. Could Xerxes do a job next season with Mbeumo and Cunha behind him? Well, see, Xerxes is not an out-and-out number 9 either. And when you've got 2 10s behind you with the ilk of Mbeumo and Cunha, you can use somebody like Joshua Xerxes as maybe a false 9, a 9.5. But you need that focal point. You really, really do. I wouldn't be comfortable going into... Now, there will be games where Xerxes plays through the middle and you've got Cunha and Mbeumo with him, and absolutely, and that what that will do is it will keep the opposition on their toes, opposition managers, and how we're going to set up. It may not be clear at the start, and that's a good thing, but you've got to have that focal point. You really do. And the Madness says, come on, you Reds. Would you blame Osman if he comes to us? He wouldn't want no more than 300k. Look at Mount on 250. Well, see, the thing about it is, you cannot judge anyone from the old regime. Mason Mount was signed before Ineos got here. And look at what Ineos have done since they've arrived. They've actually given out quite level-headed salaries. You know what I mean? They really, really have. And I think that will continue. I think that will absolutely continue. I really, really do. Right, guys, I want to talk, while we're on the striker situation, I want to talk about Ollie Watkins really quick. I spoke about it on the morning show this morning, but we haven't covered it in depth. Laurie Whitwell broke the story yesterday that Ollie Watkins is on Manchester United's list of potential centre-forward recruits in the event that Rasmus Højlund leaves the club. There has been contact between Old Trafford executives and their Aston Villa counterparts via intermediaries to explore the prospect of a deal, as United weigh up several striker options. So United are keeping their options open here. They really, really are. And I mentioned this morning that I think Ollie Watkins to Manchester United would be a very, very good signing. I really, really did. Now, the figures have to be right. Like any deal, you've got to try and get him for the right price. You've got to try and get him on decent salary, where he's not going to break the bank. And what you've also got to realise is that he's 29 going on 30 this year. He's not going to potentially get a 4+1 deal, that would take him up to 35 years of age. I think it would be maybe a 3+1. At the very most. You're at 30 years of age, you're looking at maybe 2 to 3 seasons of potential return before it starts to decline a little bit. And I mentioned this morning, I would like Ollie Watkins at Manchester United. He's put up double figures in the Premier League for 5 seasons in a row. You don't do that unless you're a good player. You really, really don't. But is he going to go out and score 20 plus goals a season for United? I don't know. I really don't. One of the advantages is he has played with Bryan Mbeumo with Brentford before. They've played together, so they know each other. I like Ollie Watkins. I really do. Do I see him spearheading Manchester United's forward line for the next 3 or 4 years? No. Would I be against it? No. Would I prefer us to get a 26-year-old, 27-year-old Gyokeres for 60 plus 10 than get a 30-year-old Ollie Watkins for a 40 plus 10, maybe? I would rather get Gyokeres. I really would. I think it's better future planning. Now, again, that's not up to us. We don't have a magic wand that goes, ding, Gyokeres, you're with us. And I think if Gyokeres goes to Arsenal, like we spoke about a few moments ago, then we've got to be realistic on who we can sign here. And, obviously, I had a clip up on socials today talking about Ollie Watkins. And a lot of people were saying, well, why would he leave Aston Villa to come to Manchester United when he finished in 15th? Well, they've got as much Champions League football next year as we do. A big fat zero. So I think he would come. I think if the money was right, if we offered him, I think he's on about 100. I think it's 150. He's on at Villa at the moment. Maybe. Let me double check that. He is currently on. He's on 130,000. What's going on with these bloody lights? He's on 130,000 at the moment at Aston Villa a week. You could bump that up to 180 coming to Manchester United and it would be a good deal. And I think he would move. I do think he would move. I think if Manchester United come knocking, I think he probably comes. But in an ideal world, what you would love to see would be a Gyokeres come in and an Ollie Watkins. Where, Ollie Watkins is your 30-year-old. And he's going to be maybe rotated in and out. I don't know if that... And I did say that this morning. But I'm reading kind of between the lines here. If Rasmus Højlund leaves the club, Ollie Watkins is a potential striker option. Now, if Rasmus Højlund leaves the club, are we going to let Rasmus Højlund leave the club without bringing in a striker? No, we're not. Okay? So are we going to bring in a striker and then let Rasmus Højlund leave and then go for Ollie Watkins? That's the way I'm reading this a little bit. Now, that might not be the case and I could be completely off and you guys let me know. But, I mean, a forward line of Cunha and Mbeumo and Ollie Watkins is drastically improved on what we had last year by a country mile. It really, really is. But I don't know. And again, maybe this is the arrogance coming out in us Manchester United fans. But I would just prefer Gyokeres, to be honest with you. I really would. Even though he's not Premier League proven and Ollie Watkins is. I do think Ollie Watkins would score goals for us. I really do. But in terms of a long-term plan and who's going to be leading the line for us on a continuous basis over the next 2 or 3 years, do I see Watkins doing that? No, I don't. And that's the point. But you guys let me know what you think. Let's see what you think in the chat. Chris is in. D says, honestly, go back to Brentford and tell them we will take Visa too. Now, what else have we got? No Watkins, says Chris, overrated. They want 60 mil for a 30-year-old. Yeah, well, that's way too much. No resale value. Well, to be honest with you, resale value is irrelevant, to be honest with you, when it comes to a striker. I mean, name the last player that we've had a good resale value on. Cristiano Ronaldo, back in the day. You know what I mean? Really? I mean, even when you go back to the Ferguson days, we didn't have massive resale value on players. He also says 3 plus is crazy. D says 24 goal contributions in the league in all 38 games. Not a penny over 50 million and 165k a week. And the Madness says might as well get Visa because he ain't going to want to play in the championship a year later. Jack, couldn't we just get Watkins for now? Try go to Europe and then get someone better. Watkins still has to go 2 to 3 years. Yeah, I reckon that is the plan, Dylan. I reckon that is the plan for Watkins. If we do go and get him, or try and get him, that it would be a probably 2 to 3 year plan with having Watkins there. Now, that's not to say that we couldn't go out next summer and sign a number 1 striker and Watkins is still there. You need more than one bloody striker, lads. You know what I mean? So there is options. There is options. Chris says 75 goals in 179 games is overrated. I think he'd be a good signing if we get 2 forwards. That's exactly what I said as well. D says, first tackle Frimpong takes, he will crumble like a rotten deck chair. And same goes for Wirtz. So we just need to be good going in other directions. We can beat the Dippers. Let's see. To be honest, it seems like Watkins is... I don't know what that says. Not better than Osman or Gyokeres. He's not, in my opinion. But again, beggars can't be choosers either, though, guys. That's the concern. You know, beggars cannot be choosers. They really can't. Dylan with the super chat. Appreciate it, Dylan. Let's get some love in the chat there for Dylan, guys. He says, any news on goalkeepers? No, nothing. Nothing on goalkeepers at the moment. I spoke a little bit about goalkeepers this morning. I just don't see Manchester United having it high on a priority list. I think, like if you're talking about what needs to be fixed first, it's the forward line. And I said it in one of my clips that up on my socials today that I think fixing the forward line gets us higher up the table next season than fixing the goalkeeper. You know, I think we will gain more points and move higher up the table next season if we can get players in that can score goals, more so than trying to fix the goalkeeper spot, the number 1. Now, that's not to say that it doesn't need improving, because it does, but I think the priority has got to be the number 9. It's got to be your forward line, and then after that, you know, the rest will take care of itself. But you know, if we're talking about I mean, if we're talking about only having a limited budget, you can't go out and look for a goalkeeper if you've if you've got to improve more important areas of the pitch. Dylan, appreciate the super chat, man. Yeah, get the love in the chat there for Dylan, guys. Really appreciate the support. Check out the new merch as well, guys, by the way. If you haven't already seen it pop up on the screen there, we've got a few new designs. We've got 3 new designs for the upcoming season, and there's plenty more to come. The Mateus Cunha one is by far my favourite one we've ever done, the Samba Red. I've already got mine ordered and it's on the way. Shipping takes about 10 days, guys. So if you want to get them for the start of the season, get onto it as quickly as possible. You'll see it pop up on the screen. I think we've actually got it. Yeah, there it is right there. Samba Red. Link is in the description. It's pinned to the live chat. You can get your t-shirts, your mugs, your tote bags, your hoodies. We've got Eric Cantona, we've got Kobbie Mainoo, and we've got Cunha all as new designs. And I've got rid of a few as well. I've got rid of the Garnacho one, so there's no more Garnacho available on the merch store. So yeah, look, I appreciate it, guys. If any of you are buying merch, it does help the channel out an awful lot. I do appreciate it. Yeah, go check it out. Go check it out. Right, want to move it on, guys. I want to talk about outgoings for a minute or two, and Jadon Sancho in particular here. Look, I mean, this guy boils my piss, so he does. But there seems to be some positive news on the horizon around Jadon Sancho. Damien Comolli is in deep, whoever he is, I don't know who he is, by the way, is in deep talks with Manchester United regarding Jadon Sancho. The Bianconeri management are also in discussions with Sancho's agent to discuss the contractual economic conditions. And this is good news. This is good news. We know that Jadon Sancho wants out with Manchester United. We know Manchester United are desperate to get rid of him. And the big area is his wage demands. His wage demands, his wage demands. And the fact that he's not overly keen to lower his wage demands is hinting that there could be another loan, but I don't think there can be, can there? Has he only got 1 year left on his deal, I think? So United are desperate to get him out as quickly as possible. Now, the £25 million transfer fee that United are looking for is not an issue with any club. Napoli, I think Fenerbahce were in for him. But the main one now, according to reports, is Juventus. And they have no issue with the £25 million transfer fee. It's the salary. It's the salary that's the big concern here. And how much is he willing to come down in relation to that salary? And there has been other updates from Fabrizio Romano in relation to this. And Juventus are trying everything by the looks of things. During talks for Jadon Sancho, Juventus have opened the door to a potential swap deal. United have been informed that Douglas Luiz, Dusan Vlahovic and Tim Weah are available. United have not responded to the request at this stage. Juve have no problem paying the transfer fee, but are not willing to pay Sancho's full salary. And again, look, we've spoken about, the salary. I don't know. Is there a loan deal? I don't know. When is Sancho's contract up? Sancho's contract expiry. Yeah, 30th of June 2026. Now, obviously, United more than likely will have that 1 year trigger extension on it. So it is. It's quite likely that, not quite likely, but there is the possibility then that he does go on loan this season. And what Manchester United would have to do is they would have to trigger the 1 year extension by the end of January, so that we could get a transfer fee for him next year. Regardless of all of that, we need to move him on as quickly as possible, because the less time you've got in your contract, the less transfer fees you can get in for him, the less money you can get in for him. So look, United need to move him on. Would you take any of them? Let me know in the chat, guys. Would you take Douglas Luiz? Would you take Vlahovic? Would you take Weah? If there was a deal there to be done where they would offer as one of them, would it be a straight swap? I don't know. It's something that we're going to have to try and figure out over the coming few days and weeks. Dylan with another super chat. Absolute legend, man. Appreciate it as always. Get the love in the chat there again for Dylan, guys. Who do you think will be our breakout player next year? I think Ahmad is going to cook from right wing back if he plays there. I really do. Full season, hopefully no injuries. I'm going to go Ahmad. Let's see. Let's see. Loan him to a pub league and put in the contract he must play every game, and watch how quickly his tune changes when his shins are ripped apart, says the Vlahovic and Douglas Luiz may just solve our issues there. Ben says, I'd take any just to say bye to Sancho. That's a fantastic point, to be quite honest with you. I mean, yeah, would you take any of them just to get rid of Sancho? I mean, Douglas Luiz, let's see roughly how much we're talking about a transfer, or how much roughly he is worth. If Transfer Market is one of the slowest websites ever. Douglas Luiz, centre midfielder, 27 years of age, 30 million. Now that's what Transfer Market have him valued at. Is he a 10 or a 6 or an 8? Central midfield, yeah. Central midfield. Yeah, mightn't be a bad option there. Dusan Vlahovic then obviously is a striker. What's the transfer valuation on him? 35 million euros. What age is he? 25 years of age. Mightn't be a bad... I mean, if you could bring in Ollie Watkins, right? Hear me out now for a second, right? Ben will hear me out on this one. If you could bring in Ollie Watkins for whatever the price is, right? And then you could do maybe a straight swap, Sancho for Vlahovic. Or two strikers that you have up front there. What did Vlahovic get last year? Stats. Are they any good? Let's have a look here. 17 goals in 44 games. So you're talking a goal every 2.5 games, maybe. 5 assists on top of that as well. 10 in the league, 4 in the Champions League, 2 in the Club World Cup, which obviously they're still counting. Yeah, so look, they're not fantastic numbers, but if you're bringing in somebody like Ollie Watkins, for example, and then you could do a straight swap for Vlahovic and Jadon Sancho, I'm all for that. You know, could you bring in a Douglas Luiz straight swap for Jadon Sancho as one of the options then to bolster the midfield? Absolutely you could. So, I mean, there are options there, and there's options that, you know, I wouldn't totally be against, to be quite honest with you. Let's see what you guys are saying. Let's see. Chris says Douglas Luiz. Dylan says Douglas Luiz would fit us perfectly. Him and Bruno. Then Cobby back up. D says, is there any team that wants to give us Fredo? Douglas Luiz makes less than 100k per year, says Chris. Let's see. And D says, you watch Juventus. Vlahovic wants to go and be aggressive and push and run in behind, but the league's so defensive. And Dylan says, Jack, would we get 2 strikers that want to play first team football, especially with no Europe? They be wanting out for not enough play time, Watkins and Vlahovic. Yeah, well, see, look, the thing about it is you've got to have 2 strikers. You just have to. You've got to have competition in every position, you know. So there you go. I don't know. Chris says Vlahovic is lazy. And look, I can't lie. I can't pretend that I've seen an awful lot of him. But you know, if you get a straight swap for Jadon Sancho and you bring in someone like him, and if he is maybe your second option to a Gyokeres or a Watkins or an Osimhen or whoever the case may be, then I think it's not a bad deal, to be quite honest with you. But anyway, I digress. Let's move it on, because we've got plenty to talk about between now and the end of the show, guys. Want to give a quick update on Bryan Mbeumo. Obviously, you know, we've been hearing an awful lot of news about him and no news at the same time. Basically, it's the same stuff. And Sky have reported today that Brentford want in excess of £65 million for Mbeumo, and United are working on a potential new offer with their most recent one worth 62.5 million, made up of an initial 55 plus 7.5 in add-ons. Not enough for the London club. Another report then from the Mail says Manchester United are optimistic about finalising a deal with Brentford from Mbeumo before the end of this week. Look, it's vital that we get Mbeumo over the line as quickly as possible. But also, like I said the other night, it's also, I won't say equally as important, but it is also very important that United are not taken advantage of again in the transfer market, in the transfer window. We spent too long under the Glazers and the Woodward era where we just paid silly money for average players. Now, I'm not saying Bryan Mbeumo is an average player. He's a good player. He is. But you've got to stick to your guns on what you think the valuation is and should be, and you don't go over a certain amount. Now, clearly United are getting better at that. And we have seen deals in the past since Ineos have come in that Manchester United walked away from and said, no, all right, too much, we're moving on. You know, Brantwaite was a prime example where United just gawked at the 80 million, went, right, see you later, we're not going anywhere near him. And now it looks like he's going to sign a new deal at Everton. So, look, I do want Bryan Mbeumo to get done. I want him to be at Manchester. I want him to be on the pre-season tour. I would ideally love to have a striker there as well. We're running out of time. I mean, pre-season training starts on Monday, and I think we fly out the following Monday. So we've got to get moving if we're getting players in the door. I think Mbeumo will be on the pre-season tour. I can't see United not getting that deal. I mean, as soon as we get the here we go, he'll have his medical a day later, and it'll be done and dusted. You know, it'll move quick. Personal terms were agreed weeks ago, so I don't see any issue there. We just want a striker in after that. Then, if you could have that, if you could have the Cunha, Mbeumo, and a Gyokeres or a Watkins or an Osman, whoever it is, on pre-season tour, I think it would be a huge benefit. We've got to realise as well, though, guys, that Ruben Amorim has been speaking quite openly and quite frank about needing pre-season to develop the players that are already there as well. You know, on the training pitch, game time, you know, formations, you know, tactics, style of play, transitions, all these kind of things that Ruben Amorim has spoken about in depth throughout his 6 or 7 months as Manchester United manager. He needs this pre-season, and I do think we will see an improvement in the players, hopefully at the start of the season. But the last thing you want to do is go into the season with your backs to the wall again, with, you know, not all the signings in the door that you require and that you need, you know. And there's one thing about maybe not having them on the pre-season tour, but there's another thing not having them in the door before the bloody season even starts. And I think that's vitally important. But look, I do think Mbeumo will be done. I do think he will be on pre-season tour with us. Am I that confident about a striker being on pre-season tour with us? Then I can't say I am. I really can't. But again, you never know. Might move fast. Let's see what happens. But let's hope that that whatever potential deals we're working on can get done relatively fast. But again, look, the Mbeumo stuff, guys, it's just an update on what we've been hearing over the last few days. But I do think, obviously, United are, one, not trying to be taken advantage of. They want to structure the deal that benefits the club, and rightly so. And I think they know that they've got time. You know what I mean? They've got the bones of another week to maybe iron out the deal, get him in, get his medical, and then get him to sign that form. You know what I mean? And I think that can be done. That really, really can be done that quick. Let's see. Chris says we need to walk away, go for a second option. Okay, but again, are you starting from scratch then? That's the issue. You know what I mean? Have you invested too much time in somebody like Mbeumo to pull the rug from under it and start again with somebody else? That's the concern there, when you are so close to getting it done, you know. And it's just structuring the payments. I'm convinced by it. I'm convinced we've got the figures, you know, the amount that Brentford want. I'm pretty certain we've got that ready to go. It's about structuring the deal, whether it's installments, whether when the add-ons are paid. I think that's what's holding everything up. Amazing we are not talking to a second option so we can walk away. We suck at transfers no matter who is in charge. I don't think we do suck at transfers anymore. I genuinely don't. Are we the best at them? No. But I don't think we're shit at them either. I mean, we got a lot of really good business done last summer. We got some decent business done in January. Cunha is done and dusted. We're on the 1st of July. We're on the first day of the new financial year. The very first day of the new financial year we're on. So, you know, it's not the end of the world. I've got one piece of hair sticking up here, and God. Yeah. Thomas says, only one sign so far. Amram is being hung out to dry. I'm not there yet. I genuinely am not. Look, pre-season is a week away. And Mbeumo will be done by then. I'm convinced by it. I think we're going to see movement in the next couple of days in relation to the striker. Because, like I said at the start of the show, the Gyokeres release clause is in effect from today. So I think we could see movement on him. Potentially not even from United, but if Arsenal put in a bid and he accepts and, blah, 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 then we move on to somebody else. And we've got players lined up by the looks of things. So, yeah, I think potentially we could see a striker come in. You know the way sometimes you see players that fly out to pre-season tour, after the team departs and so on and so forth because the deal is done later and stuff like that. Maybe. We are focusing too much on number 10 when Bruno and Ahmad or Xerxes can play there. We should be in for a striker. Yes, but again, you got to reiterate, you got to take into consideration what we were saying previously as well about bringing in 2 number 10s. Not only adds 2 number 10s to your team, but it allows Ahmad to be a new wing back and it allows Bruno to be a new number 6. So you're basically getting 4 new positions filled by just signing 2 players. So, yeah. D says, I'm just about fed up of these teams taking the piss when it comes to the badge, showing up to sign their player. Just because you're from that area of London doesn't mean you need to act like a bellend. Danikin says, we do need to send the message to other clubs that this is a new management and Ineos aren't afraid to walk away. Absolutely, and they've done that before. They really have. How do we not have a second option lined up? For a number 10, I think we don't have a second option lined up because Mbeumo made it quite clear that he was not wanting to go anywhere else other than United. And United went, well, look, and we knew quite early on that United said they've got the money for 2 signings before any sales are required. And it was going to be Delap and Cunha. And then obviously Delap went to Chelsea, so they moved to Mbeumo. And look, we're talking here about not about a potential deal, not knowing any of the details between United and Brentford. There's no way United would be still in talks with Brentford if they didn't think they could get Mbeumo for the money that they're willing to pay. You know what I mean? We still wouldn't be in conversation with him if that was the case. So that's why I do think the deal will get done. And if it'll probably be 65 million at the end of the day. And if that's what it costs to get a player like him who's Premier League proven and who's, able to score goals and who Ruben Amorim wants, then let's go and do it. Let's go do it. What else have we got? Let's see. 6 weeks of talking to Brentford. Come on, that's terrible. Is it 6 weeks? I don't think it's 6 weeks. I wasn't on holiday 6 weeks ago when the Mbeumo story broke. That was, 3 weeks ago? 4 weeks? Was it? I mean, I still have a bloody tan, so it couldn't be that far away. DJ's in. Good to see you, pal. Welcome back. Haven't seen you in a while. Howdy all. Glad I was able to make it in today to watch for a bit. Well, we're happy to have you, man. Thanks for joining us, as always. You're welcome to the live. Dylan says, Mbeumo will be a fantastic player for us, but if it takes any longer, for all we know, another club pay Brentford asking... Well, no, I wouldn't be worried about another club at all, Dylan, because Mbeumo made it quite clear that he's not moving to anyone else other than Manchester United. If he doesn't move to United, he's going to stay at Brentford. I wouldn't be worried about that at all. Danikin says, isn't Gyokeres' agent super manipulative? He shafted Barca to the tune of 30 million on the De Jong deal by drumming up fake interest from other clubs. Maybe so. And if that's what he's doing, then, good on him. But United have to be aware of that. And if they're not, then shame on them. But yeah, I'm sure they are. Right, guys. Marcus Rashford. Okay, Marcus Rashford. Another potential outgoing that we can hopefully get done between now in the end of the transfer window. FC Bayern, who is obviously the reporter Christian Falk coming out from Bild in Germany, has says that Bayern Munich are considering a move for Manchester United's Marcus Rashford. Bayern scouts are aware of his profile and the prospect of signing him. Now, does that mean that he's going to go to Bayern Munich? Absolutely not. He is on a list of a number of players for that left role, including the likes of Nico Williams and the usual crew. Again, I'm going to reiterate, and I'm not going to spend too long on Rashford because it'll only get me annoyed. I think Rashford is going to drag on and drag on and drag on and drag on, and I think it will be I think it is going to be a bit of a saga between now and the end of the transfer window. I can't see it happening anytime soon. He wants to go abroad to a major club. Are they willing to pay 40 million plus whatever his wage demands are? I don't know. But David Ornstein has given us an update, guys, on him, and he said Marcus Rashford is prioritising a move abroad if he leaves Manchester United this summer. The club want a sale, but the 27-year-old attacker also open to a loan or swap deal if the right opportunity arises and wants to compete for titles. Return to Manchester United for pre-season training on the 7th of July. So he will be back for training next Monday. Hearing these loans or swap deals, look, obviously we would ideally want a full sale and get the 40 million in the door, because it's going to go back into us hopefully getting a striker, a goalkeeper, a centre midfielder, a centre back, whoever the case may be. We can't continue to loan out players, and that's a big concern. If we do continue to loan out players, we'll just keep devaluing these players. Now, they might go out and have a fantastic season, like Anthony has done, for example. But you're also a year older. You're also a year down on your contract, which means the transfer fee is less. So I think we got to move Marcus Rashford on permanently. But again, it's not really up to United. United have set their price. It's up to clubs to come to United now and maybe negotiate that a little bit. If it's 30 plus 10 or 40 plus 5 or whatever the case may be, then after that, you've got to agree personal terms with Rashford, and Rashford is on considerable money at United. Now, I do get the sense that Rashford is willing to take a pay cut, because he ain't going to get 345 grand at any club in the world, bar maybe Saudi Arabia. If he leaves Manchester United. So he's got to be realistic as well. If he wants to, like what David Ornstein is saying here, if he wants to go abroad and if he wants to, compete for titles, then he's got to get realistic about the wage demands that he puts on any potential new club. Because if he continues to look for the type of money he's getting now at United, no club, his contract will just run down at United. And he's got a couple of years left, I think, at that as well. So, just wanted to give you a quick update on Rashford, guys. Obviously, I think it's going to be I think it's going to turn into a bit of a drama, to be honest. But anyway, I'm going to finish, guys, on a bit of good news. And I do have to give Ineos an awful lot of credit here. And whether it's Jason Wilcox or, Christopher Vivell or Omar Barada, whatever the case may be, whoever's working in the background to get these young kids coming up through the academy tied down to extended deals is doing a very good job, because we're hearing an awful lot of them over the past few weeks that, United are getting, some of the really, really talented players within the academy tied down to long-term deals. And none more so than JJ Gabriel. This kid has been on every European giant. Every top club in Europe has had this young kid. Now, this was a few years ago on their radar. And Academy Scoop says United have been making concerted efforts to show JJ Gabriel and his family a pathway for a long time now. So it's no surprise that him committing to stay this summer is the subject of much relief within the club. Despite the youngster only technically being able to pledge himself for the next 2 years, there's now increased optimism that he sees his long-term future at Old Trafford. The next critical juncture in his United career will come in 2027 when he will be offered a scholarship deal which would keep him at the club for another 2 years. Although that summer he's eligible for a move abroad. since he holds an Irish passport. Get him signed up. Get Jack Charlton up out of the ground there and get him to ring his grandmother and get him signed up to Ireland. Give him a cap. But look, it's great news. This kid has been touted as the new Messi. Very, very talented young kid, and one that continues to go on the upward trajectory that he's been on for the last couple of years, will be an absolute superstar. He has made his debut for the under-18s at Manchester United at only 14 years of age. He made history by doing that. I think he's the youngest player ever to feature. And it's great news that Manchester United are keeping these young players within the squad within the club, because the future is everything, and obviously you've got the here and now, and you need players signed, and that's what transfer windows are for. But getting the likes of this young kid and plenty of others, which I can't think on the top of my head, to be quite honest with you, but they are there. It's fantastic news. It really, really is fantastic news, and it's something we should be happy with, because Ineos are doing well, whether it's Jason Wilcox or whoever the case may be who's getting these young players signed up, is absolutely fantastic. Guys, I'm going to leave it there. Please smash a like on the video if you haven't done so. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let's see that number move up in the top left of the screen up here. Please do. Is it there? Yes, it is there, up there somewhere. Do subscribe if you're new to the channel, guys. It helps us out an awful lot. We're on the road to 15,000 subscribers. I'm going to try and get, will there be morning? I'm going to try and get a morning news show out tomorrow. It might be a little bit later than normal because I have the kids, but I'll be back tomorrow night. As always, same time, same place, same Manchester United stories. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have a great evening, great rest of your night. Smash a like on the video on the way out. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll chat to you tomorrow. Take it easy. Good luck.